Hi everyone, it's Phil here from Ashland Leather, and this is a really special day. I've got a bunch of special one-offs to show you, and by the time you see this video, these should be available on the website. And there are 34 different items, and what you can expect to see in the video today are new and unique colors and textures and leathers. Let's take a look here first. This is a special coin pouch in a Western ultraviolet shell cordovan, and the Western texture is my personal favorite texture that Moran offers. They have hundreds of different textures, but for some reason I always gravitate towards this one, and I think it looks extra nice with the Western, or with the ultraviolet color. Let me show you a look here at a Apple Watch band, and this is made out of extra thick chrome excel leather. I've been wearing this strap here in the extra thick Dublin leather. I've been really enjoying it, and if I'm honest, I think I would suggest more of like a 6-ounce thickness. I think this is just a little bit too thick, maybe 1.5 millimeters too thick for my taste. But a lot of people have been messaging me about my extra thick Apple Watch band. So you can pick this one up in black chrome excel. This one has a silver hardware attached to it. And we've got a nice little comb and comb sheath here. This is a carbon fiber comb. We normally sell these carbon fiber combs with an English tan Dublin leather sheath. But check out this sheath that we made. And this is a leather that I announced maybe 3 months ago, and this is the tumbled blue shell cordovan, and we had one made into this comb sheath. And I really like this tumbled blue. I don't know if and when we'll be able to get more of that particular leather, so that might be the last you see for a bit. Speaking of new shell cordovan colors, this is the Kia shell cordovan on a one-shot card case, and this is a color that Skip Horween came up with recently. It's sort of like a mild medium green shade. Sometimes the green shades of shell cordovan read a little bit too dark. So he's been trying out some lighter green shades. And here's another Kia piece. This is actually one of the first things that we ever made on the Kia shell cordovan. And take a look at that Johnny the Fox. Super nice, smooth shell there. I really enjoy this color. It's almost like there's a little bit of blue in it, perhaps. And take a look at the interior here. This is one that blew me away. I really enjoy this reverse interior. All those random dye marks I think are really special. Take a look at this one. Here's another one that blew me away. And this is something I don't know if we're ever going to be able to see again, because this is sort of the mad tanner scientist over there coming up with new stuff. So Skip Horween's always trying new things out at the Horween Leather Tannery. And this is something that we're going to be calling a whiskey hatch grain shell cordovan. So this is a unique texture on the whiskey shell, but it's also been tipped. And what I mean by tipped is it's been finished in such a way that they stain the leather one time for the base color, but once the texture is in there, they can take a rag with a little bit of finish on it and go lightly over the tips. So what you end up with at the end of it is the valleys of this texture are a little bit lighter in color and the tips are a little bit darker. I'll try to give you a better look here because that's a really fun look. And I don't know if we'll be able to see this one ever again. This might just be a one and done thing for them, but I really like it, so I hope they do more. On the inside of this Fat Herbie, this is color rate reverse on the inside with a nice little Horween ink stamp. And here's one more brand new thing. This is the first time anybody has ever seen this color, and this is what they're calling the Emerald Shell Cordovan. And another green color. It's kind of similar to the Kia, I suppose, but this one is a lot more vibrant. Take a look there. Let me give you a comparison here. So that Fat Herbie is a double reverse emerald, and here's the Kia on the right. I'd say the Kia is a little bit more blue and a little bit darker, but they are pretty similar. There's something a little bit magical in this emerald shade. It just has a really nice vibrance to it. So that's really neat. And here's the double reverse. So I was really blown away by this card piece on the right, and my business partner Dan cut this one. I think he did a really nice job cutting that green stain, the random stain on the right there, into an interesting way. I like how it's balancing the left and the right on this Fat Herbie. And I have 3 different Frank the Enforcers right now. I think there's some more later. Let's start off here first. This is a hand-stitched Frank the Enforcer in raw shell cordovan. The little middle stripe there, the middle card holder, is actually a marbled cigar shell cordovan. Like I mentioned, this one is hand-stitched, but I wasn't completely happy with it. It's a little bit inconsistent, so we'll be marking this one down as an irregular for that reason. And here's another hand-stitched Frank the Enforcer. This one's natural shell cordovan, also hand stitched, also a little bit inconsistent. I don't like how this spacing is tighter than the bottom, so we're going to be marking this one down as well, but you get a really nice piece of natural shell here. And here's the last one that I'm most excited about. This is something I'm going to be calling raw veg, but what this really is a veg horsehide strip. This gets tanned alongside the shell cordovan in the tanning pits, but it is not shell. It's just above the shell on the horsehide, and it happens to be very grainy, and I think it's very nice. I think this is a little bit more of like a traditional veg look. But I'm calling it raw veg because there's nothing done to it. In fact, it looks like there's little scuffs in it, but I think that's just sort of like the skin itself, because we haven't covered up anything on this leather. Something here that looks like a little bit of a scratch. I'm not really sure what that is. I think that's just part of the hide. And let's take a look at 3 more Fat Herbies. What do we got here first? Oh, this is a fun one. This is a rare cigar shell cordovan. Very nice medium brown shade. The cigar kind of looks like a color 8 sometimes, but it has very much less red to it. It's a lot less burgundy and more of like a really nice neutral brown shade. So it's a rare color. We don't tend to see a lot of it. We've got cigar on the inside and the outside of this guy. And here's another cigar piece, but this one has a reverse interior. So we get that beautiful cigar on the outside with a nice reverse interior on the inside. This on the left here happens also one time on each piece of shell cordovan. Personally, I don't really like this sort of digital look, but a lot of people have been asking for this Horween measuring machine stamp to be placed into their wallet. So this one has a nice little measuring machine stamp if you're into that one. Let's take a look at the last guy here. This is a really beautiful color 4 double reverse. Take a look at that beautiful medium brown with reddish tones, the color 4 shell. And for about a decade, the color 4 was my favorite shell color. Really like that color. So double reverse means we have shell and reverse shell on the inside, as well as shell and reverse shell on the outside. Okay, and we have a lot more to go here. Let me give you a look at the rest of them. This is a lot of wallets, so let's slowly go through these. Let's look at the black marble shell cordovan, Johnny the Fox here. There's actually a pair of these. And these are called black marbled, but I thought they were just a little bit too green. So I'm going to be selling these today, as I'm calling them dark green black marbled. This one's a little bit darker than the other one, but it has a little bit more light, like orangey tones underneath. You might be able to see that. On the inside of both of these, this is the black horsehide interior, so it's a little bit less expensive. Here's a look at the other one. This one's like a little bit more olive, perhaps a little bit more yellow. And in certain lighting, this does read as a darker green, which is why I'm not selling it as a marbled. I just think it's a little bit confusing. Again, a black horsehide on that one. Here's a fun one. This is a Tony the Ant in 1940s calfskin. This is the orange color, and it's not like a bright orange. It's sort of like a reddish orange. But this leather was tanned almost 80 years ago. This was tanned in 1941, and Horween was never able to reproduce it. So this is a special Tony the Ant going out. The leather from 1940 here, these old calves, we call them 1940s calf. It's very thin. So if whoever picks this one up, I ask you to be a little bit delicate with it. The other thing about this specific orange Tony in that 1940s calf is there's some imperfections on the outside here. You can see a little bits of rot, I believe, in the grain there. But this leather was special enough to where we decided to cut it. But this one will be up for a little bit of a discount for those little bits of imperfections. And here's a fun one too. There's actually 2 of these. I think I lied earlier. This is what we're going to be calling color 4, but it's like a light color 4. It's like a little bit more golden, a little bit more caramel in tone. I'd say this color is somewhere between the garnet and the color 4. It's not a true color 4. I think I'm going to be calling it a light color 4. So this is a Fat Herbie in like a light color 4. It's a really nice shade. Really glassy, smooth shell here on both of these, and they're both pretty similar if you look at the other one here. Nice caramel tones here. Some angles it appears a little bit more red. That's a beautiful shell on both of these Herbies. Here's another fun wallet. This is what we call the Tall Tony, and this is exactly our Tony the Ant pattern, but we've increased the height of the bill slot in the back. And these Tonys were originally designed to fit US dollars, but on the original Tony design, some of the currency from around the world is just a little bit too tall for our normal Tony the Ant design. So people were asking us for this bill slot to go a little higher up the back, and that's how the Tall Tony was born. But take a look here. Beautiful color 4 shell on the outside. That's a about as good as it gets. And on the interior, this is really fun. We've got the amaretto shell cordovan with the middle piece here as black marbled. And I really like how this tall Tony turned out. What else do we have here? Here's a Bugs Moran. And this one is in raw shell cordovan. What I like about this particular raw shell is this texture on the back. And I'm going to start calling this a quilted texture because it reminds me of like a quilted maple wood. I really like that. Sort of like a tiger leopard spots. Very much a natural character that we don't control. We're not able to choose the leather like this. So it has to be a little bit hand selected, which is why it got added to the private stock here. On the inside, this is color 8 reverse interior, these random dye marks, and I like how this one is balanced with the dye marks on the left and on the right. Here's an interesting one that I was debating on including or not. This is actually an old stock Fat Herbie. We used to make the Fat Herbies in a leather called Natural Essex, and that's what this is. Natural Essex is very similar to the Natural Lancaster, but it's a little bit more orangey tan, more of like a true veg shade. The reason we stopped using this Essex was it has a tendency to pick up dirt. It's hard to keep this color clean. Let me see if I can show you a bit of it here. There's little dots that don't come out in the back of this leather. So I'm going to be offering this one for half off. The Essex ages really, really, really well. It gets very golden brown. It sort of ages like a raw shell cordovan piece, but I thought this was interesting enough to include just because I don't have any more natural Essex available. And here's another really neat Fat Herbie. Take a look at this really bright, shiny, smooth shell on the outside. This is color 4 double reverse. We got color 4 shell on top of reverse on the outside, and reverse with a color 4 shell on the inside. That's a really nice Fat Herbie. Here's another raw shell Fat Herbie, again with that quilted pattern. I really like that look. And I really wish that Moran was able to control that because I would buy that every time. I really like the unique texture on this raw shell cordovan. And for many years, the raw shell cordovan was a dream of mine, and now it's finally here. It's been here for about a year, and I love how this leather develops. It starts off a little bit dull. You can see it has much less shine than a normal piece of shell cordovan, but that gets brighter and shinier just with normal use. And the color also darkens and deepens. It's sort of that leather patina that a lot of us have become expecting from a piece of leather. It gets a little bit more golden, a little darker. So I love this raw shell Fat Herbie. This is probably the most mild one in the batch here. No color combinations, but just that nice piece of raw shell. And here's the one that I think is probably going to stun the most people. It stunned me for sure. There's a lot in here that are total stunners. This is a beautiful piece of cigar shell cordovan. And it's probably one of the nicest pieces of cigar shell that I've seen, or any shell. Perfectly smooth, really bright, shiny luster, and a really rich feel. This is one of those ones that you can almost see how it feels. It kind of looks really rich, and it feels very rich and supple. What's really special about this, there's many things. This sort of has every option on it. This cigar shell cordovan on the outside also has an orange hand stitch, and we use a tiger thread, which a lot of people are looking for. It's kind of a thicker, more specific and defined look. On the inside, we've got also that same hand stitching, the orange contrast with a whiskey shell cordovan on top of color 8 shell cordovan hidden card slots. So we've got additional card slots, we've got additional hand stitching on this Fat Herbie. Let me give you a look at some different Johnny the Foxes here, and we'll start off with another 1940s piece. This is the blonde 1940s calf. Super cool. We're not able to get any more of this, and I think we're actually running out. We didn't start with a lot, and I never really promoted this leather. And even with that, we're still running out of it. This is really, really neat. It's sort of like a golden caramel color, and it's very, very thin. Like I mentioned on that Tony the Ant earlier, the 1940s calf is super, super thin. So I'll give you a look here to give you a sense of that. I would ask whoever picks this one up to be a little bit delicate with it. It's not going to just fall apart on you, but I don't think you can abuse this like everything else I make. This is one of those ones that I have to be just a little bit more careful with. But the ones that I have seen wear in, I've seen some Fat Herbies and some other wallets. They wear in very, very nicely. So this one's going into the private stock sale today. You can find it again on the flash sale page. And here's another Johnny the Fox. Check this one out. This is the tumbled natural shell cordovan. And I really like that look. It's sort of a texture of pebbled, but it's as opposed to the marble shells, this one actually feels textured, unlike the marble shells, which are flat in feel. And that's really cool. And there's something that's happened to these shells once they're tumbled. They start to haze up and it looks like a little cloudy, which is really neat. The tumbled shells that I have seen being worn get a little bit brighter and shinier. They definitely age like all of the other shells and get darker in color as well. Take a look at the inside here. This is color 8 shell cordovan. It's tough for us to make any Johnny the Fox with the shell cordovan interior because it's hard to get thin pieces of shell. Here's another fun one. This is a leather called Visage Latigo. So it might just look like a black Johnny the Fox here on the inside and the outside. The difference here is this Latigo was drum dyed red. So the leather starts red and then they stain an opaque black finish on top of that. So if this were to get scuffed up and scratched, some of those red tones start to pop through. So the Visage Latigo is really fun leather. I'm happy with this one very much. I think the look of it is super sleek. And then I have 3 different jumbo foxes. And the jumbo fox here, this is the same sort of aesthetic as the Johnny the Fox, but just blown up and has been made a little bit bigger. So we've got an additional bill slot divider in the back here, where the Johnny the Fox just has 1 slot in the back. This one has 2, and then we've increased the height. There's 1 more card slot on each side here. I'll give you a better look at that. And on the outside here, let's look at this one first. A really remarkable piece of intense blue shell. This one sort of has like a futuristic look, the way the light bounces off of it. Super bright and shiny. And that really nice aqua blue of the intense blue shell cordovan. This has a contrasting yellow stitch, which is really fun. And we have that same stitch on the inside with a black horsehide interior. And here's another black horsehide interior on the Johnny the Fox with a yellow contrasting thread. But on the outside here, this is color 8 reverse shell cordovan with a really nice Moran ink stamp cut into it. We've got 1 more jumbo fox to show you, and this one is also a stunner. Take a look at this tumbled verdigris. Sort of like a greenish blue shade. Sometimes it looks a little bit gray. And I think that's because those tumbled shells, like I said, they sort of get a little bit hazy looking. But this does fill in. When you just wear this wallet, it starts to polish itself in your pocket. So that's a really fun thing to experience. It starts to develop more of like a wet mirror-like look on the surface. Take a look at the inside here. This is a lot of shell cordovan. So we've got black reverse shell cordovan on the inside, and I thought this matched the tumbled verdigris on the outside very well. I thought that would be a really nice complement to make a black reverse interior for this special wallet. But let me show you this intense blue shell cordovan Bugs Moran. Really bright shiny luster on this guy, really nice aqua blue undertones, and the interior here has a really interesting combination with the raw shell cordovan on the right and the reverse shell cordovan on the left, and that's a natural reverse. So the colors are pretty similar there. Here's another great Bugs Moran, also in the intense blue, and this one pops. The blue pops a little bit more because we have a contrasting orange stitch around the outside of this one, and we carry that stitch on the inside here. So the inside, we have intense blue shell cordovan underneath some intense blue reverse, and again with that orange thread. I thought this Bugs Moran turned out really well. Here's another one that's super fun. Here's intense blue shell cordovan with ultraviolet, but this Bugs Moran, Lupe tried out a little experiment, something that she wanted to see, which is ultraviolet shell cordovan on top of the intense blue, and she wanted a card slot on the outside of a Bugs Moran. The other thing that Lupe really likes is this stitched card holders here, where she stitches around the border on the inside here, and there's also no hot stamps, so we don't have the Ashland logo on the outside or the shell cordovan logo hot stamped on the inside. We just have 1 Ashland logo on the back here. We've got 2 more Bugs Morans. This one is in dark green shell cordovan, really nice forest green color, sort of has like a blue yellowy undertones to me. And the interior, this is great. I really like the way the natural reverse interior here pairs with the green on the outside, if I can grab it. I think those 2 colors work really well together. And the last Bugs Moran to show you, this one is crazy. Take a look at this. This one has a brand that we cut into it, and it's also not something we can control. So that's very random. I think it looks great. It was cut very nicely into the back of this. This pattern is actually a little bit wider than the Bugs Moran. We actually used the Tony the Ant pattern here, which is a little bit wider in the center. So it makes it a little bit larger, but that is to accommodate more of that brand in the back. And I think that looks great. Take a look at the inside too. I really like this. There's a couple things I like here. I like the green die marks on the left and the right of those card holders, and I also like how this Horween ink stamp sort of continues through the center. That's a really neat Bugs Moran, and I kind of wish we could control these brands. This is pretty funky looking, so maybe somebody with the initial of B might be into this one. All right, last but not least, for the one-off private stock sale today, this is the first wallet that we made in the raw amaretto shell cordovan. And I love amaretto shell cordovan. If you watch any video that I've ever done, it probably couldn't shut up about how much I love the amaretto shell cordovan and the raw shell cordovan. And this is a combination of both. It's like the raw shell, but obviously has a little bit more of that amaretto color to it. A little bit of a light orangey tan shade. That is really neat. This one's actually an irregular, so it'll be slightly discounted. You can see the scuff on the right here. That's not something that I can get out right now, but once this is worn, that should just fade and blend in. So this might be a nice chance to try this one out. On the inside here, we have reverse interior with the amaretto in the center. What a great way to end the private stock stuff today. So by the time you see this, the private stock will all be up on the flash sale page of the website. And there's so many unique things here. I'm really happy with the team for coming up with all of these different looks and unique designs. I've tried to set the team loose. Dan, Amir, Matt, Danae, and Lupe, and Poncho, and Amanda, and Laura. I tried to set everybody loose to make things that excite them. So something like this brand, it's not something that we're trying to do. It's just something that we came across that thought looked great. And same with the reverse interior. So it's been really fun to see all these things come together. Hopefully you enjoy it too, and if you have any questions, definitely let me know. But thanks for checking out the private stock today, and I'll be back again later with some more stuff. And until then, take care.